You're listening to the Food Truck Empire podcast, where we talk about great food, big trucks, and how to launch a profitable food truck business. Here's your host.
Booyah! Food Truck Empire episode 16. This is your host, Brett. Whether you're listening from the truck or at home on your desktop, I really appreciate the time that you spend listening to us. This week, I'm going to be speaking with Doug from DB's Hotdog and Sausage Emporium out of Kenosha, Wisconsin, of all places, on how to fund a hot dog cart without going into debt. Doug used his tax return and the crowdsourcing website foodstart.com to launch his business instead of taking on a loan. We're going to be talking about how he did that with him shortly, but first, applause effect please, because we've got our first sponsor, which just happens to be foodstart.com, the crowdfunding website that helps mobile business owners raise capital for their truck, food cart, or restaurant. You can think of it kind of as the restaurant industry's version of Kickstarter.com. And the nice thing about FoodStart, too, is that you don't actually have to reach your full campaign goals to be able to take out funding like some of the other crowdsourcing websites. So I'm really pumped to have FoodStart.com with us as a sponsor, but there's also something really cool that benefits you, the listener, as well. And here's what I'm talking about. So FoodStart, for every campaign that's started on there that reaches at least $5,000 and gets at least 20 contributors, FoodStart will kick in an extra $500 towards your campaign. Not too shabby, right? But if you're a listener of the Food Truck Empire podcast, and this is the really cool thing, FoodStart is actually going to double that number. So that means that you could potentially be getting an extra $1,000 in funding through them. Now, what's the catch? Here's what it is. 1, you need at least 20 people to contribute to your campaign. 2, your goal must be to reach $5,000, and you've got to be able to successfully attain that. And 3, you've got to sign up for a free account through foodstart.com and shoot an email to support@foodtruckempire.com. Just let us know that you have signed up as a listener of the Food Truck Empire podcast, and we can ensure that you get that $1,000 bonus once you hit that $5,000 threshold. And if you're seeking funding for a food truck anyways, you're probably going to want to raise more than $5,000. I think it works out. I'm really, really excited about this partnership, and you'll be hearing more about them in the future. And today's guest actually went through foodstart.com to raise about a third of his capital for his own business. Of course, if you want to learn more about our partnership, feel free to check out the episode 16 show notes on foodtruckempire.com. Next, if you guys have been listening to the podcast over the last few weeks, you know that I really wanted to sponsor a new food truck, one per month for October, November, December, the rest of the year, to help fund deserving food truck entrepreneurs wherever they happen to be located through their crowdfunding campaign. Now, I'm happy to announce that I've found the food truck for the month of October, and drum roll please. Congratulations to Switch Food Truck out of Albuquerque, New Mexico. Now, Switch It Up serves creative peanut butter and jelly sandwiches and will be run by brothers, and I really hope I pronounced their name right, the Salvagno brothers. One happens to be a trained chef, and the second is a scientist by trade. I'll be sure to link up to their campaign in episode 16 show notes. Hopefully we can get these guys on the show in the near future to talk about their business, but in the meantime, their campaign ends on October 25th, so definitely check it out in the show notes. I've linked up to it there. Again, I'm really excited to be moving into this next stage with the podcast with an official sponsor. I feel like I'm really getting legit here, but I definitely don't want to take up any more of your time. Let's dive straight into the meat and potatoes and talk to Doug from DB's Hotdog and Sausage Emporium. Hi, Doug. How you doing? Thanks for being on the Food Truck Empire podcast with me today. And before we get into our main questions, would you mind just telling us a little bit about yourself, your background, and why in the world you wanted to get involved in the hot dog business?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. I run DB's Hotdog and Sausage Emporium. I've been doing it for about a year now. I've been cooking in everywhere from dive diners to high-end gourmet restaurants for the last probably 2 or 3 years. And I've always wanted my own restaurant and wanted to get out from underneath managers and, other chefs and that sort of thing and just kind of do my own thing. But I don't have $250,000 to $500,000 in my pocket. So I came up with the next best thing, which was mobile food. And I got a little hot dog cart. It's a little trailer kind of a deal that I just tow hitch to locations, and I put out what I consider to be the what do you want to call it? The status symbol hot dog, as it were. I do high-end stuff. I do very different things. I try to take the idea of the hot dog and make it something fun and a little gourmet-ish kind of a deal, as it were. So.
Describe one of these gourmet hot dogs.
Well, I had a really good seller this year. I call it the unicorn and rainbows. And what I do is I take a hot dog and I smother it in mozzarella cheese, and I have a grill on the cart, so I let it melt down. And I take edible sprinkles and greens and reds and yellows and stuff like that, and I lay that over the top. And then I take a little bugle, those little corn chip.
Oh, yeah, totally.
You stick that on the end of the dog right into the mozzarella cheese there so it sticks. And so you got a little unicorn hot dog there with rainbows. So that's something fun for the kids, But I do my other favorite one personally is what I like to call the chop house. And that's a hot dog with sauteed mushrooms, steak sauce, and gorgonzola blue cheese. That one's pretty good too.
Yeah.
So,
that sounds amazing. Well, I know you said that you've been running your business for about a year now, and you said that you don't have $500,000 laying around in the bank, and neither do I. So how did you go about raising capital for DB's Hot Dog and Sausage Emporium?
I had two main avenues, or main cash flow avenues, I guess. One, I had a tax return from last year that I convinced the wife that we should really spend it on this hot dog cart, don't you know? And then I went through an organization called Food Start, and I crowdfunded probably about a third of my total startup with that.
Walk us through a little bit. I think I've got a good idea about how you managed to get the tax return money, begging, pleading your wife.
Yeah.
But walk us through a little bit about how you managed to secure funding from Food Start. Obviously, this is a crowdsourcing platform, a little bit like Kickstarter. It
is like Kickstarter. Yeah, as I understand it, though, Kickstarter is mostly for art project kind of situations. I may have misread it. I don't really know, but I thought I remembered seeing you can't use it for businesses. So I just kind of Googled, food and crowdsourcing, and this popped up. It's actually it's a newer company. I think within the last 2 years. I believe they're based out of Colorado, and so I started talking with them. And they set me up an account. It's a total web-based kind of a situation where the donations go into them. You don't have to handle the money. You don't have to worry about that kind of thing, which really appealed to me. I like the fact that Food Start gave me legitimacy instead of me going to my friends and family and everything else and just kind of hat in hand and basically begging. It was, no, I'm doing this through an organization. It's legitimate. It's, and they could go to the website. They could see it. They could, do their own research on the organization if they wanted to. So my biggest thing in terms of using Food Start was the legitimacy aspect of it. And then they gave me some tools, like a little online seminar course, kind of a PDF sort of a thing that, these are different avenues you can do, Twitter, Facebook, that sort of thing. And then I just kind of hit the Facebook really hard, tying it into the Food Start. So I would do stuff like I would give weekly updates in terms of where we were at, and I did some things like there are different levels of donation, so if you were to donate $10, you got like a free hot dog or something, and if you donated $50, you got like a T-shirt, that sort of thing. And then I think I threw a couple other things in there as well as we went along, depending, hey, if we hit 50 people or whatever the number was, to do something by this date, then I'll do this or whatever. So, just incentivize it incentivized everything.
Yeah, for sure. And did this wind up being mostly friends and family that ended up contributing, or?
It did, but it also, I did not get a lot of randoms, I don't think. But I did get a lot of people that you call them friends on Facebook, but they're not necessarily, somebody you talk to every day.
Totally.
So I had some people. Actually, if I'm not mistaken, I had some friends from that I actually know just kind of purely online. Like one guy was from Norway or I think, and I had one from Australia and California, and so I'm based out of Wisconsin. So it allowed me access to people coast to coast and worldwide that, obviously I'm not going to, I'm not comfortable with just making a phone call to them, but they saw it and they wanted to be involved. And so they could, they could kick in anything from as little as $10 to, the full $2,000 or whatever it was, so it's good like that.
Yeah.
It gave me access to a lot of different people at that way.
And out of curiosity, if you had one piece of advice for somebody that was considering their own crowdsourcing campaign, what kind of tip would you give them?
Well, I talked to a lot of vendors throughout my course of doing this. Met a lot of people online. There's a lot of little Facebook groups and stuff you can join. I would highly recommend you do that. It's a really good community. They usually, I don't think I've met one person that wasn't helpful or wanting to be helpful.
What's the name of that community?
Well, the one that I think it's National Food Vendors Alliance is the one that I joined. So we bounced a lot of ideas off of each other, so that was great to start. And then one of the things that came out of that actually was the idea that I really think people need to understand is that if you don't take a loan to do this, it's a bad idea. Crowdsourcing is great, and it's different than loans. There's a couple of organizations out there, I'm not going to name names, but they are not crowdsourcing. They are basically a loan department kind of a situation. So you just got to make sure you do your research and make sure that there was one guy in particular that really got burned on the back end because he didn't. They couch it like it's crowdsourcing, but then you actually end up owing money even if you don't get all of your cash, kind of a thing. And he ended up owing.
Oh, wow.
He ended up owing a percentage of that. So even though he didn't hit his number, he still owed percentages. And like with Food Start, if you don't hit your number, nothing happens. Like all the money's never pulled from their accounts, nothing happens. So it's a really good fail-safe as far as Food Start works it. But this one guy, he kind of got burned on that. And so I would really strongly suggest you really take a look at the organization and understand exactly what you're getting into, and don't do loans. If you don't have the funds to do this and you can't kind of beg, borrow, or steal them, and you owe money at the end of the day, then it's a bad idea. Because it's a touchy market sometimes. You really got to put some work into it. And I would hate to, like, I own everything free and clear right now, and I would be in big trouble, I think, if I still had to make payments right now to somebody. So that would probably be my biggest piece of advice: is don't do loans and know what you're getting into.
Yeah, especially with winter coming up in Wisconsin. Okay, great. Well, thanks for that explanation. That was really awesome. Transitioning a little bit now, obviously you've been in business for about a year now, you said. What's been the most challenging aspect of operating your mobile food business so far?
I would have to say finding good location. Mobile food, in my estimation, is all about location. And there are some places where you think, this is going to be great. This is going to be the most amazing thing ever. And you get out there and you sit there,